Hello, good morning, good early afternoon, or whatever time it is where you're located at the moment. My name is Maria Kelo. I'm the Director of EUA's Institutional Development Unit in Brussels, and I'm also the Director of the EUA's Institutional Evaluation Program, IEP. And that's our today's topic for this webinar. I welcome you very much to this event. Thank you for joining us. And I've been asked to convey particular thanks to those from Ireland and from Latvia or from any other countries that might have actually a national holiday today. So you get extra points for joining us despite of a holiday. I see that many people have already started to send greetings into the chat. Please use that to introduce yourself to the other participants and also to insert comments or anything you would like to wish. And there is also a separate Q&A button to the right-hand side of your screen where you can then post questions to the presenters during the webinar at any time that you would like to do so. We have quite a full program today. We've really focused on telling you a little bit more about the institutional evaluation program and what it can do to help universities in their strategic change management, and also a couple of examples which are quite interesting because they are very different examples of institutions that have recently been through an IEP evaluation. One is the University of San Marino, which is a relatively small, relatively new university going through its first external evaluation ever by an external agency or external program, and the Charles University in Prague in the Czech Republic, which is a very large, very old, very well-established higher education institution that many of you know and has also been through many different types of evaluation or accreditation in its history, including 3 institutional evaluation program evaluations. So you hear a bit of different examples, but before we get to those examples, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is Brian Norton, a member of the IEP Steering Committee, and he will first tell us a little bit more about what IEP does and tries to do. So Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning. As Maria said, I'm one of the members of the IEP Steering Committee and a chair of the evaluation panels, and from Ireland. So I'm one of the people who technically have a holiday today. The tagline for IEP is supporting institutions in developing their strategic leadership and capacity to manage change. And I'd highlight 2 words in that statement: supporting and developing. And that is a particular characteristic of IEP. It's not seeking to be part of any national or international accreditation process, and it's not seeking to rank institutions. It's meant to support and development. It's based around 4 key questions that a panel is looking at. What is an institution trying to do? How is the institution trying to do it? How does the institution know it works? And how does the institution change in order to improve? And those are the lenses through which a panel looks at what is provided. What is provided is a self-evaluation report. We ask universities to evaluate themselves, set their own goals, their own analysis of their operating environment, its constraints, its risks, its threats, and how they're going to address those. The self-evaluation can be very general, and cover all aspects of the university, and has to be honest, cover all aspects of the university, even if it's a little bit more focused, for example, on internationalization or on the management of research and the use of research results, which are 2 options that are available to have a more focused report. And we don't judge that self-evaluation in the sense of, we don't say there whether that is appropriate or not, other than really perhaps indicate issues that might arise of maybe inconsistency, or perhaps that maybe some more ambitious goals might be reasonable to seek. But we're actually judging those 4 questions against a self-evaluation report. In practical terms, what actually happens with an IEP evaluation is that report is submitted. There is a meeting of the panel, which might then seek further information, particularly data that might be required to underpin that report and check perhaps some of the assertions that are made. And then there's a set of online meetings, including a sequence of online meetings with various groups within the university, and then a meeting which might be 3 or 4 days, depending on the type of institution, its geographical spread, many other factors, where we actually meet all kinds of groups from the senior leadership, but also samples of academic staff, external stakeholders, students, obviously, and a whole variety of parts of the institution, different faculties, different colleges, however the organisation is organised. The panel is comprised of peers, people who have run universities, have been rectors or presidents or deputy rectors, deputy presidents, etc., but also includes a student from the European Students' Union to make sure that there is very clearly a student perspective in what we do. As I say, it's a content-driven evaluation, takes your mission, your goals as the starting point, and does not seek to impose any criteria. So how your university is organised, how centralised, decentralised, how collegial, how managerial it is, that's not an issue for us. We have no preconception as to what is the best way to organise a university. And indeed, all ways of organising a university can work. It's how they work which needs to be demonstrated in the institution evaluation. It's very much oriented around improvement. So we're not, as I say, oriented towards accreditation or ranking. We're actually seeking to be constructive in terms of how the institution will develop. And as I've said, it covers all aspects from teaching and learning, the research, the quality culture, service to society, and internationalization. And the emphasis that we place as an evaluation on that will depend on your own self-evaluation as an institution. We come at it with very much a European perspective. The panel will comprise people from other than the country where the institution is, who will have worked in evaluations across Europe in other contexts. So they bring a wider perspective of the possibilities of the solutions that others have, although, as I say, we don't seek to impose other solutions, but they come with that kind of background and context. I'd say there's a set of online meetings, there's a 4-day site visit, and then we produce a written report that is checked for both its factual accuracy, and then is actually publicly available. And there would then be a follow-up report over time, and if necessary, depending on what the kind of relationship develops, we'll talk about this a little later with Charles University, there might be follow-up evaluations maybe 1 to 3 years after the initial evaluation. In a practical sense, that report is publicly available, so you've got an evaluation report which is there for others to see, but also the evaluated IEP icon for 5 years as part of the public expression of being involved in this process. What I found as a panel chair is that institutions value the process as much as the outcome. The producing the self-evaluation report has to be a group constructed to do that. It has to involve a large number of people across the university, from the management side of it, the collegial governance, the students, etc. And that exercise in self-reflection is an experience, I think, that certainly many universities have seen as an opportunity to not just take stock, but ensure that perhaps the tacit vision of their university that many individuals might have corresponds to the actual strategy and policies and procedures that the university has. So getting alignment, getting a sense of what the university is about, what it particularly values, what its particular focus is, for example, comes through that kind of process. So the process itself is as valuable, perhaps, for many institutions as the outcome. In summary, it's an evaluation against a self-evaluation report. We don't come with preconceptions. We don't come with a set of norms that you need to comply with as an institution. But what we do seek is how you are going to deliver what you say you are going to deliver, and whether what you say you're going to deliver is coherent and an appropriate response to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and indeed threats that a particular institution faces. I will stop there. I'm not sure if I'm quite to time, and hand over to the next speaker. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Brian. I think that gave really a good idea of what IEP is trying to do. And I would just like to add to that, that it's true there are no preconceived ideas or strict, rigid criteria. At the same time, we do, of course, follow also the ESG, the European Standards and Guidelines, and see how those are reflected. But it's very much from the point of view of enhancement and the strategic management of the universities rather than ticking boxes. I think that's a very key characteristic of the IEP. And IEP as a program is registered on the European Quality Assurance Register and also a member of the European Association for Quality Assurance, ENQA. So that's just to add a little bit, but now we'll see, Brian, you painted a very nice picture of IEP, and let's now go and listen to those who've been through that, what they thought about it. So we have 2 example cases, and in those we have both a member of the panel, in this case Katarina, and then people from the university who can share their experience. So I leave that to you, Katarina, now.
Good afternoon. My name is Katarzyna Gajda. I'm from University of Warsaw, and I had the pleasure of participation in evaluation for the first time as a student representative during an evaluation at the University of the Republic of San Marino. And I must say that I had the opportunity to see the professionalism and the great knowledge of the experts on how universities work. I would now like to discuss the impression with academics from the University of the Republic of San Marino, Michele Bacchiocci and Paola Cenci, professors from University of the Republic of San Marino, who participated in the selection of the evaluation institution and attended the evaluation. So in order to present the evaluation experience in the best way possible, we are going to present it in the form of question and answer. And my first question for Michael and Paula is, could you please briefly introduce your institution for our audience?
Yes, good morning. Hello, everyone. I'm an administrative coordinator of one of the departments of the university, which is the only university of the Republic of San Marino, which is one of the world's oldest republics, and it is a small country, independent, situated and surrounded by Italy. Our university was founded in 1985, and despite its small size, the university plays a central role in the country's economical and social development. It currently serves 1,000 full-time students across bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs, in addition to other 1,000 students considering also professionalizing courses, seminars, and conferences. All activities are organized in 3 departments. So we have the humanities, history and law, and economic science and engineering and design department. The university is really embedded in our local community and maintains strong collaborations both with Italy and international institutions.
Thank you very much. And I would like to ask another question. What were the key factors that led your institution to pursue an evaluation, and what made EUA-I and IEP the right choice for you?
Thank you, Katarzyna, for the question. I'm Michele Bacchiocchi, professor of structural mechanics in San Marino University. To reply to your question, after San Marino's entry into the European higher education area in 2020, we pursued the IEP evaluation in response to the new national regulation that aligns San Marino's higher education system with those standards which require periodical external evaluations. Beyond this requirement, we saw this process as a strategic opportunity, not only to reflect on our internal quality system, but also to support our governance structure and also institutional development. Therefore, IEP was the ideal partner due to its peer review approach, also its alignment with the European standards and guidelines, but also the emphasis on the institutional improvement, always fostering the dialogue. In addition, its experience with many different universities offered an important perspective tailored to our specific context.
Thank you very much. And looking back, how did your initial expectation compare with the actual experience? Can you share a specific moment when the evaluation exceeded your expectation?
Well, this was our first experience undergoing an external evaluation. So in the beginning, we weren't really sure what to expect from the evaluation. We awaited a more strict and rigorous and formal evaluation process, actually. Then, as the process unfolded, we quickly became very clear that the approach of the IEP team was more dynamic, collegial, and in-depth than we expected. What particularly stood out was the team's ability to engage meaningfully with all levels of our university, from leadership to faculty to administrative staff to students. So their questions were very specific, and they demonstrated a true interest in understanding not only our structures and procedures, but also our culture, our ambitions, and our challenges. So the depth of analysis and the thoughtful nature of the peer review dialogue transformed the evaluation into a valuable moment of reflection for us and learning for all the academic community. The team had a real supportive tone and a capacity to stimulate internal conversations that actually are still ongoing today within our university. They stimulated the dialogue at all levels.
Thank you very much. And I would like to talk about the relation with evaluation team. Were there any moments that particularly demonstrated their understanding of your institution's needs?
Maybe I can reply to this question. Our relationship with the evaluation team was open, always respectful, and very constructive. They created a really welcoming atmosphere, a very nice collegial, this collegial attitude stimulated honest discussions, not only at the academic level, but also administrative and even with the students. They always listen carefully and they adapt their analysis to our specific case as institutional reality. They really showed an interest in understanding our culture and framework, as Paola told before me. And it's important also to highlight that the team's diverse international experience enrich their feedback and help us to see new perspective, especially concerning, for example, the leadership renewal and also the quality assurance mechanism, for instance.
Thank you very much. And about what was the most helpful aspects of the whole evaluation process? Could you tell us?
Yeah, one of the most helpful aspects was the opportunity to critically reflect on our institution with the support of this external independent peer. A critical friend, always ready to respond to our needs with the great experience. The IEP process allowed us to look at our institution completely, not only in terms of academic performance, but also in relation to internal communication and long-term strategic planning. The focus on improvement rather than compliance helped us to identify our priorities in constructive and forward-looking way. So the team validated many of our strengths, such as student-centered approach and the strong societal engagement. So they really helped to reinforce our institutional identity in some way.
And what from this, what you said, it is the most useful as a recommendation given by the evaluation team?
Maybe I can illustrate some aspects in this context. And I think that among the various previous recommendations, two stand out particularly. First, the suggestion to invest in leadership development and succession planning was especially relevant for a small institution like ours, where sometimes the key roles are often concentrated in few individuals. In addition, in this context, we have already started addressing this aspect by distributing responsibilities more broadly to encourage capacity building among the staff. Second, the recommendation to further formalize and strengthen our internal quality assurance mechanism, mainly, let's say, in research and third mission area, has gathered recent improvements in the data collection, for example, or stakeholders' involvement, and also the alignment of our quality assurance process with the strategic goals. I think that these suggestions are helping us to implement a continuous improvement process also.
Thank you very much. So for institutions which are with us today, so maybe what advice would you give based on your experience to considering an EUA-IEP to evaluate their institution?
Well, personally, but also as an institution, I would encourage any institution to approach the IEP evaluation and to approach it with openness and trust and full engagement. For us, it was a real opportunity for improvement and growth. It wasn't only a bureaucratic exercise or a compliance checklist. The advice I would give would be to be as transparent as possible, to share your challenges as well as your strengths, and to ensure that all parts of the academic community are actively involved, from the faculty to the students to leadership. They should all feel part of this important progress, because everyone can give its own personal contribution to the entire process. The last advice would be to process as a dialogue rather than an audit. The peer review approach is really supported, and if embraced properly, the evaluation can lead to genuine institutional growth at all levels of the university.
Thank you very much, Michele and Paula, for your answers, and I'm back to Maria Kell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. And I can promise you, all those who are listening to us, we didn't pay for Michele and Paula to explain all these very positive things. And it's actually kind of, I hear that for the first time now, as you others hear it. And I'm very pleased to hear that it was a useful exercise, because I think that's what really matters. And I really appreciate what Paula was saying. In a way, I often tend to say that you get out of IEP in the measure that you give to it. And I think what Paula was saying about this active, open, transparent engagement at all levels, and then you actually can get something out of it. If it's done with a kind of a little bit of holding things back and not really being interested in that, then IEP can't do miracles. It takes the two sides of the active engagement. So I don't see any questions for the moment, but we'll come back to you at the end. We have some time for questions. So please, all participants, post your questions in the Q&A if you have any. And thank you again, all three of you, for this session. And we'll be moving now to the next one. Which is a very different example, in the sense that Charles University is, of course, a very large, very multidisciplinary, multi-faculty, decentralized institution with a lot of students, with a lot of history, with a lot of evaluations behind their back. And yet there seems to have been some help from IEP also for this type of institutions. So I leave that to Tatjana, who was the chair of the panel that visited the Charles University. When was it? About 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago, and Vera, who coordinated that process at Charles. So the floor is yours.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Maria. Good morning to everyone who has the morning and who has afternoon, and greetings from Latvia. And I have had the pleasure to lead the team for evaluation of Charles University, and very pleased to see that Vera Stasna today is with us, and she is the head of analysis and strategies department of Charles University. And as it was mentioned, she was the coordinator of the whole evaluation process from Charles University side, and it's not easy task. It really takes a lot of efforts, but Vera is going to tell us more. And therefore, first question to you, Vera, is please introduce briefly your university.
So, good morning, everybody, or as Tatiana said, good afternoon or greetings. And thank you very much, Maria and Tatiana, for introducing me. I'm not a professor at Charles University. I am an, as I can say, administrator, which is, in the opinion of majority of academics, totally different animal. So Charles University is part of the Czech higher education system, which I could characterize in three, I would say, headlines: highly prescriptive, relatively closed, and chronically underfunded. And this university is the oldest university. It was established in 1348, and it's a public university. It has more than 50,000 students, something around 52,000 students, 17 faculties, 4 research institutes, and it gives education and performs research in very wide range of areas: medicine, pharmacy, natural sciences, humanities, social sciences, theology, sports. One can say that Charles University is a laboratory of a Czech higher education system, because we have all types of these programs. We have also all types of programs vertically, that means bachelor's, master's, doctoral, and all universities or public universities in the Czech Republic have very high degree of autonomy. And as it was already mentioned, Charles University faces large fragmentation, which I sometimes summarize that it's a kind of confederation of very autonomous faculties.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is enough for the introduction of my university.
Yeah, thank you, Vera. Indeed, it's a very prominent university. There are generations which were working behind to build it up to the stage where you are currently. Yes. And the next question is, Charles University underwent EUA-IEP evaluations already in 2017 and 2020. So this was a third evaluation. And what key factors led to choose IEP again? To return back to multiply times, please let us know.
Yes, I think that it's relatively straightforward. In 2017, Charles University wanted institutional accreditation, and that meant to perform also that we have a certain quality culture and quality system, which was not the case at Czech universities, not because there would not be many activities and many evaluations any time before, but because it was not viewed as a full system. So we tried to find whether we are ready for critical reflections of ourselves. And you heard a lot about the methodology of EUA-IEP, and therefore we opted for this. And we found the recommendation of the team very useful, and we also opted for follow-up evaluation, which I think is very important. Once you have the initial evaluation, it's for the dynamic of the process very important to have also the follow-up. And we used the follow-up evaluation in 2020 for designing our strategic plan for 21 to 25 period. And now we had 3 tasks. The first task was to evaluate how we manage. Did we fulfill the priorities? Did we had good priorities? Did we managed it well? How that was one of the reasons. The second purpose was very pragmatic. In our internal regulations, we have this duty. Then before you prepare a new strategic plan, which is the main document in the Czech Republic for higher education institutions, you have to have some self-evaluation, but also external evaluation, and the same is required by the ministry. So we had this, I would say, formal reason. And last but not least, it was a very nice opportunity to have the wider European perspective and ask the team also for their opinion for the future strategic development of Charles University. So these three reasons led us to invite the EUA-IEP again, because de facto our contemporary or nowadays strategic plan was built on their recommendations.
Thank you so much. And looking back, and also you are still in the process of reflection, what were the most helpful aspects of the whole evaluation process? Maybe you can briefly tell us a little bit.
Yeah, it's I think that it is very important to, and it was already said by my colleagues from San Marino and Bamaria, Kelo as well, that it's very important to concentrate on critical and transparent and straightforward attitude to the whole evaluation, and to mobilize the academic area as well as the administrative area, because both are from different reasons very, very important. So for us, this was the process itself. Then also the methodology of the EUA, that it's a kind of formative and international look at our university. And if I should be concrete to give some example of such a recommendation, there were those, of course, recommendations to manage the fragmentation, which is a very long-term process. It's something like if you want to turn Titanic. But we are trying, and the outside look is very important. Another is in building quality system and nowadays quality culture, which still, as we learned in our third evaluation, is not visible enough. We improved in many areas, but still, it's also very important. And where we found the recommendations also very useful is the area of internationalization, where we, thanks to second evaluation, built a kind of relocation staff welcome center for international academic staff, which helped us. And we, of course, the next evaluation again continued in this process.
Thank you so much. So we can see that there are visible gains and also some might not visible from the first moment, but short and long term. And thank you, Jan, for highlighting also this usefulness of recommendations. And my last question will be, what advice you would give to your institutions, universities who are considering EUA-IEP evaluation based on your experience?
I can sign what has already been said. That means that the process is important. It's a very nice opportunity to mobilize the staff. For instance, at the last evaluation, there were more than 120 academics and administrative staff participating during the discussions. Of course, preparation of the self-evaluation report, then the online visit, on-site visit. So once I made the statistics, there were more than 120 academic students and administrative staff. And this gives certain momentum to the process. As I said, very important is not to lose this momentum. This means the follow-up. And for us, this means also incorporate the results and the recommendations into the institutional strategy. This is very important. And last but not least, I should probably start with this, is the involvement of the leadership of the university. That means the leadership is the rector and vice rectors have to be quite familiar, and they have to want to implement and change the university.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Vera. And I see that we also are running out of time a little bit, but taking the opportunity, I would like to thank you personally again for your excellent work in coordinating the whole process for such a team at university by involving all these people you mentioned, the number. It's not easy task, but you have done it excellently. Thank you again, and I am moving back to Maria, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Thank you very much, Vera, for the testimony. I see some questions are coming in, so please keep those coming and we will get back to them in a moment. But we will for the moment move forward with the program. We'll come back to Vera and Tatiana later with the Q&A session. But before that, I would like to ask my colleague from the IEP Secretariat, Tanja Dutz, to explain a little bit just technically how the process works and what are the timelines involved in that, what are the different stages. So Tanja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will thank you, Julia, for the presentation. So I am Tanja. I give administrative support to the EUA-IEP Secretariat. And today, if I manage to go to my next slide, I will have 5 minutes to show you what is the process or the chronological timeline for the main actions and the division of responsibilities between the university and the IEP Secretariat. You will see that, and I will go in detail to each one of the 7 steps, we will mention, or I will mention, a time frame that is just suggested because you can sign up for an evaluation at any time of the year. So the reference to year 1 or a specific month is just as an example. The first thing is usually the registration. That's a time when the university registers to have an IEP evaluation. They sign the contract. The next step is the preliminary arrangements. From the IEP side, we select a team that will be evaluating the university. We discuss the specific objectives that the university has for this evaluation. We give them guidance and answer the questions before we start the process. And from the university side, that's the time where they will do the payment and also suggest dates both for the online meetings and for the site visit. The next step is basically the work for the university and might take about 3 months, or that's what we suggest is invested on it, because it's the self-evaluation report, and the IEP team will then base the online meetings and further the site visit on what they learn from the self-evaluation report. This report needs to be provided to the IEP Secretariat at least 1 month before the online meetings happen. The next step is finally the online meetings and the site visits. So once the self-evaluation report has been provided, approximately a month later, we have a couple of days for online meetings between the IEP team and members of the university at different levels, as it has been mentioned by my colleagues in different parts of the world. And then more or less 6 to 10 weeks after the online meetings, we have an actual site visit. So the team goes to the university to visit on site and ask further questions and understand further the situation. In terms of who schedules what, usually it's to the university to provide a schedule or a draft schedule for what's or how it's going to happen during the online meetings and who we are meeting, and when. And then for the site visit, it's usually the team who suggests a schedule. After that, we have a follow-up video conference. That's usually 3 months after the, I'm skipping one step. After the site visit, we have the evaluation report, which is written by the IEP team. And then, as some of my colleagues have mentioned before, we check that there are not factual errors that would need to be corrected. And once the final evaluation report is done, we publish that on the IEP website. And 3 months later, we have a follow-up video conference, and that's basically a feedback session online that my colleague Cecilia would do with the liaison person at the university. So, for example, people like Paula or like Vera. And a year after the final evaluation report has been submitted, then we ask the university to provide us a progress report. It doesn't need to be lengthy, and it's just to have an idea of how the university has been able to apply, or maybe not, the recommendations that were done by the IEP team during the evaluation. That's it. If there are any questions, I guess they can be placed on the Q&A, and I will just take part of the answers whenever the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Now I'm also reminded of an important piece of information I did not say at the beginning. In my introduction, this session is being recorded, so that you can also come back to this and have a look if there is too much information in one go, and always feel free to contact us at the Secretariat, Tanya or me or Cecilia, my colleague, and you can also find more information on the IEP website with perhaps Tanya, afterwards, maybe you can post that in the chat, just the link. And thank you very much, Tanya. And I do have some questions that have come in. So for the next little time, we have still a good time. Everybody has been very disciplined and kept to the time. So I would like to have everybody of the speakers on the screen if possible, although there are some quite technical questions which I think I would need to respond to. Sorry, can I just check, Tanya, you have a bit of background noise, some kind of knocking, so maybe you can see if you can put that off. Thank you. So I will start with a question, and in the meantime see if more questions maybe to the universities who have been evaluated are coming through. There is one question, which is whether it's possible to have a look at the self-assessment report just to check out what is going on and what kind of requirements there are. And there I can answer that the self-evaluation reports, it's not compulsory to publish them. We advise that the institutions do that, at least for all the internal stakeholders to be aware of that and have a look, but they are not published on the IEP website, so we cannot disseminate those. But I will ask Tanya also to put a link to a document called the Guidelines for Institutions, and that really gives you an idea of all the questions and kind of expected focuses or possible evidences that could be provided for all of those things. So we call it this, it's the guidelines, and then there is the annex, which is kind of these key questions for self-assessment. So that kind of probably gives you a good first idea of what is expected and what is covered in the process. Again, all of that from the perspective of what is important to you as an institution, what is your specific mission, position, context, etc. So you can be a small institution, professionally oriented with a strong societal impact, or a large university involved in a European University Alliance, and that will obviously then have a difference in how you will respond to those suggested questions and to what extent you focus on one or the other. Then there is kind of two questions that I can respond in one. One is, can IEP lead to accreditation? And the other one is, do we know of universities that have been through IEP and have used that for negotiations of their national funding? So I would like to say that because IEP is kind of a voluntary European level program, it doesn't have legal consequences, including it doesn't automatically lead to accreditation. This said, because IEP is registered on the European Quality Assurance Register and follows the requirements of the ESG, the reports could, for what we know, used for national accreditation processes. But in order to be sure that it works and it will be accepted by the national accreditation body, it's best to have a kind of a dialogue and a meeting with the IEP, the university, and the national accreditation body, just to make sure that it will then be possible to use that IEP report for national level accreditation. Directly, it doesn't lead to that. The second question about the national funding is, I don't actually know if anybody has used that. It could provide additional information, but again, it is not a kind of a legal status document that is either a requirement or has a certified benefit in the processes for funding, but it surely can be used as additional information. And then there was a cost about the cost, the funding, the cost of the IEP evaluation. That's also available on our website. We are aware that the website is very difficult to access, actually, and we are now revising the website so it will be more user-friendly. But the cost is about 33,000 euros for a university, and plus then the kind of local cost for the panel of hotel and food. So that's more or less how much it costs, but then the details are available on the website, and I think Tanya is posting you all kind of links in the chat so that you can have a look for more details there. So that's the questions I had. Sorry, speakers, I'm kind of dominating the answers, but these were such technical questions that I think it's better if I answer about the price than if you do. But if there are any other questions, please, participants, keep them coming. I'm trying to monitor, but there is nothing new coming. Has anybody out of you speakers a question to another from among you? Because you're the only ones who have a voice in this webinar. No?
Maybe
yeah,
just to comment on the question about sort of funding and things won't lead to. I think in a self-evaluation, if there are particular initiatives that the university wants to pursue strategically, they can include them in strategic evaluation, in their self-evaluation as their goals. They will then have them evaluated, and that may or may not, depending on who funds those kind of things, present some evidence or at least some preliminary evaluation of that particular initiative and its merits, and that might help in. And I do know that some institutions, I won't say which, have perhaps included things in as their strategy, saying they're obviously dependent on funding. And I think part of their strategy was to have them discussed within the university, have them agreed within the university as part of the self-evaluation, and then taking them forward in whatever national process they had. So certainly if you've got strategic initiatives that you want to pursue, including them critically, to include them in a self-evaluation, and that might position you in various respects to achieve them in either with more resources or with more internal support.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, also it is possible, of course, I answered the part of the cost for IEP, but there are many cases where funding for the process, for these 33,000, whatever it is obtained from different sources of funding. There's either kind of development funds or national funds, etc. So that's also an option to explore, absolutely, in case you are interested. Vera.
Yeah, just to continue where Brian and Maria started, in our system, the evaluation by EUA-IEP is also part of the legislation, because our universities are supposed to be evaluated externally. And this can be substituted by this EUA-IEP evaluation, because this evaluation is part of the register, European Register for Quality Assurance Agencies. So it's European-wide recognized. So this is one of the official impact which it can have. And also why we opted this time and asked the European University Association a little bit to tune the ordinary evaluation was that the strategic plan is the most important document in the Czech Republic. And what you have in your strategic plan is very important for funding, especially in its project part. There is some institutional funding, and then is of course some project part of funding which is covered also by national grant to a certain extent. And then it's very important what you really have in your strategic plan and whether you fulfill it. And therefore also the duty, which is not in the law, but it's required by the ministry, that you have to evaluate how you proceeded in your strategic plan period. And EUA-IEP methodology is very appropriate for this because it's a kind of discussion. It's a kind leading to recommendations which the institution has to discuss later on. Maybe some are, I would say, some are have more priority for the institution. Some maybe the institution does not proceed so much. We are in the middle of this discussion because we have been preparing the new action plan. So implicitly, definitely it has also some consequences for funding, at least in my country.
Yeah. Yes, Tatiana.
Yes, if I may add to what already been said, but this regarding the question, can IEP lead to accreditation? We know that there is a diverse landscape of accreditation in national contexts, like some accreditations are focused on study programs or study fields accreditation, but some countries already move it to institutional evaluation and accreditation. Therefore, IEP evaluation, it's very helpful from this holistic perspective, looking to university as a whole, because very often universities are concentrating on educational side or for research assessment on research and then service to society, but from university perspective, it's important. And therefore, it's a help to develop this international culture of evaluations and accreditations, and also facilitate thinking, critical reflection for further directions of development, which of course is helpful for national accreditations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. I think we are now coming to a natural end of this webinar. Thank you again for all of you who have dedicated time to prepare for this session and contributed to that. And to all the participants, it's about 70 people we have had throughout the webinar, which we are very, very pleased about. So thank you all, and I hope you will have a very nice afternoon. But before I let you go, I forgot I have to mention that we are also launching this is the little commercial break at the end of this information session. IEP is also launching now a possibility for using our methodology with 30 years of experience of dealing with international panels at the European context for enhancement-oriented evaluation. IEP is extending its offer to specific methodology based on the traditional IEP for European University Alliances. So that will be coming available for alliances in the next week or so. So, you know, in case your alliance or you are in an alliance, you might be interested in exploring that. Perhaps particularly it will be relevant in the stage when out of the project, this alliance becomes kind of a more permanent or more solid entity in and of itself. So that's also coming next on IEP News after 30 years of doing pretty much the same thing. Of course, the ordinary IEP evaluations also continue. So get in touch in case you have any questions or wish to get some more support in this topic, and have a very nice afternoon and a good week to all of you. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.